On this edition of the Roundball Report, I'll be joined by Ray Rogers, the host of the Urban Sports Scene podcast, as we interview former University of Maryland star and former Roundball reporter and the new head coach of American University men's basketball, Duane Simpkins. So sit back, relax, get ready for your weekly dose of serious hoop talk, because the Roundball Report is next. Hello, I'm Andrew Dyer, and welcome to another edition of the Roundball Report, the only show in the area dedicated to highlighting the experts of the high school, college, and professional basketball teams which play in the Washington metropolitan area. And tonight we have a special show as Ray Rogers, the host of the Urban Sports Scene podcast. It's our unique pleasure to be joined by the new head coach of American University basketball, a long-term friend of mine. He used to actually did some time as a reporter on the Roundball Report after his dynamic career playing basketball for University of Maryland and overseas. The new head coach of your American University Eagles, the one and only Duane Simpkins. Coach, welcome to the Roundball Report.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Andrew. Long time, man, long time.
It has been, and the years have done better for you than they have for me, because you still look the same.
That's why I'm growing my hair out, because it's starting to go away. You gotta fake it.
I hear you. And we're joined by Ray Rogers, the host of the Urban Sports Scene podcast, and my right-hand man here with the Roundball Report. And Coach, let's get things started. I mean, for those that don't know, tell them a little bit about your Hall of Fame playing background that led you to get into coaching.
Oh, man, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. until about I was 12, 13 years old. We moved to Fort Washington, Maryland. But I grew up, man, just sports, football and basketball in particular. When I was in Southeast, number 11 Boys and Girls Club right on Martin Luther King Avenue, man, that was my haven. Dropped the book bag and cut across the alleys and head to number 11 Boys and Girls Club. When we moved to Fort Washington, there was no Boys and Girls Club, like that you literally go to. But Allentown Boys and Girls Club was around. Silver Hill, I started playing football for Silver Hill. My old coach, Mr. Hanley, rest in peace. And then, I was still playing. I went to Our Lady Perpetual Help School in Southeast. And so I was at one time I was playing for CYO basketball for Mr. Toomer at Our Lady Perpetual Help. I was playing for Silver Hill Boys and Girls Club. And then I was also playing uptown at number 10 Boys and Girls Club for Ed Hill, who was a mentor, a good friend of mine, even to this day. And so my father, man, he had that Volvo. He would take me all around the city and all around the county to play in games and practice and everything. So, that's where I developed the love and the passion for the game, competing. And I was blessed, man. I had some really, really good coaches. And I had my dad in my life, obviously. Ended up going to DeMatha High School and, played 4 years as a varsity player there. I was a McDonald's All-American and was blessed enough to be coached by one of the best to ever do it, regardless of level, in Morgan Wooten. And from there, went on to the University of Maryland, where I was blessed to play for another Hall of Fame coach in Gary Williams. And went to a couple of 3 NCAA tournaments, 2 Sweet 16s, and had a very good career there. And then went overseas and played professionally for about 5 or 6 years. And after that, man, hopped right into coaching.
You left out one pit stop, the Roundball.
Oh, hey, I did the Roundball report. This is the thing. I just told somebody just yesterday, they were like, how many years did you play professionally? And I told them, I said, I played for 3 years and then I stopped for 3 years. And during that 3-year period, I said, in my mind, I was done playing. And I said, I knew I either wanted to coach, but I wanted to do sports broadcasting first. And hence, me being on the show with you and hosting sometimes, and I got my chops with that, man. And it's so funny going back home and watching it. You record it on the VCR and you go back and watch it, you almost cringing like, man, that was terrible. I look, man, I'm over here stuttering and my eyes are big and everything, but it was a great it was great to get that foundation, man, for like looking into the camera, communicating with your co-host and everything. And man, testament to you, man. I gained a lot of knowledge and experience during that time. But we even did some games. My very first broadcasted game was an American University game. I think I did it with Chick Hernandez. That's when HTS was Home Team Sports was around. And I told somebody that story just last week. Chick Hernandez, I did my very first game with him at American University.
Right. Your first television game, your first radio television game. You and I were the radio voices.
Yes.
And we were ahead of our time because we were doing internet radio. We were streaming back before that was even heard of.
Peter Sauer hooked us up. I mean, Peter Sauer was a sports information director at American at the time. And he was like, yeah, we're going to do the radio. And I was like, is it radio or is it, what exactly is it? But like you said, we were ahead of our time at the time.
Right. And Ray, I'm going to let you get in and ask some questions to our esteemed guests.
Absolutely. So, Coach, again, it's nice to meet you. And I'm hoping that my podcast, my show, we'll be able to cover American University. There'll just be another outlet right here in the DMV that we can cover and just highlight just the amazing things you're doing. Because I got a chance to cover.
Open invite. You got an open invite, Ray. Anytime.
All right. Don't forget me now. I remember last season, as the guys know on the show, I got to cover Coach Blakeney at Howard. And I also covered Austin Freeman and Morgan. And I'm just thinking, y'all got a coaching tree growing under Morgan Wooten. And of course, his son is a coach, O'Connell. I had a friend that played for him. So just talk about that lineage and that legacy that he left behind and how you guys are following that path.
Man, Coach Wooten was, obviously everybody knows he's a great coach. But what people fail to realize is how good of a teacher that he was. He always said that he's a teacher at heart. People fail to realize he coached. I mean, he taught history for about 35 years at DeMatha before he retired from the classroom. So he always looked at the basketball court as an extension of his classroom. And the fact that we were able to be around Coach Wooten for 4 years, and you don't know it at the time, but you're subconsciously learning and soaking in so much that led to the success that he had for decades, right? And so for me, man, and Joe Wooten's the same, and Kenny Blakeney's the same, Mike Jones, who's the assistant coach at Maryland, all of us, man, Corey McCray, who's at Boston College, at our core, we're teachers first and foremost. And yes, we want to win ball games. We know that our livelihood is predicated on winning ball games, but at the same time, we don't neglect the fact that we are here to rear and help young men grow into being the best versions of themselves that they can be on and off the basketball court.
Now, Duane, all of us, even as a parent, you try to glean from what your parents did, take what you think worked and utilize what you didn't. You mentioned you had a chance to play for a Hall of Fame coach in high school, a Hall of Fame coach in college, and you've also been an assistant for numerous years. So what from their styles and their techniques, you mentioned the teaching aspect, but what are you going to take to mold into Duane Simpkins' head coaching style?
Oh, good question. I was blessed enough to be a head coach for 6 years at the high school level. 2 years at Sitwell Friends. Second year we went undefeated in the league and won a championship. Our first one we had won in 40 years, and then I spent 4 years at St. Albans School. And the biggest takeaway that I took from that, man, is obviously I learned how to, communicate the game. Is one thing to know in your mind what's supposed to happen and everything. But I think a lot of really good players at no matter what level, they struggle with coaching because they're slightly impatient or they can't quite convey what the young men are supposed to do on the court and how they're supposed to do it and when they're supposed to do it. And besides that, I think the other thing that I took from being a head coach was I got a chance to build I know my identity as a coach. I spent the first year and some change trying to figure it out. I was in between a madman like Gary Williams was and being a mild-mannered dude like Coach Wooten. And I'm somewhere in the middle, but I found myself, man, like going to different extremes, during the course of a season. And, it took me a while to realize, man, like I can't yell and stomp my foot like Gary because it gave me a headache. I was too drained physically and emotionally. But at the same time, I'm competitive, and I had to find my own voice as being in terms of being a head coach. And I think those 6 years, that's what it afforded me. And I know what it's like to be on the other side, being an assistant coach and having to, your head coach is leaning on you for some suggestions, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's the head coach's decision, right? And I've always been a point guard. I've always been a quarterback. So I've been itching for that day to say, you know what, I'm making a decision. I'm gonna listen to everybody, but I'm gonna make the damn decision.
Now, of course, you've been at George Mason for the last several years, and it's kind of like musical chairs. Tony Skinn, who was on that Final Four team with George Mason, he left Maryland to take that job. Your good buddy and former DeMatha teammate for a year or so, Mike Jones, is on the assistant coaching staff there, and now that led you to get the AU job. It was in the regular rotation. Where are you at in the process of building your own staff?
Oh, staff's done. Staff's done. I was, I feel bad. So many guys even hit me. I mean, today I got whatever 10 or 12 text messages, asking about, hey, coach, that's been ongoing. But I've been pretty much preparing for this for quite some time. I've always had in my mind, I keep a notebook of, different philosophies that I've accumulated throughout the course of the year, my career, different X's and O's things, different tactics. And I've also kept a list of guys that I said, if I were a head coach, who would I want to hire, right? And some of those names, they fluctuate because all depending on the job, the budget may not fit where they are. I got some guys who are, really good friends. Some of my best friends are, in the Big East, and they're not leaving the Big East to come to American, right? So now you got to move things around, go to this column of guys and everything. So I've been the staff's been done, man, probably about 2 or 3 weeks before I even got the job. I was in my mind, I know I didn't have the job, but I was working as if I did.
Did you want to share some of your staff?
Oh yeah, this is Tyler Malachi.
It's not official just yet.
Okay.
I can't divulge names. One of them's already come out already. Jackie Manuel, who was on the administrative staff down in North Carolina. Jackie and I worked together at UNC Greensboro back when I guess it's going on 11 years ago now. But me and Jack would always, we'd be sitting in the room, man, on the road and, talking shop about what we would do if it was our program. And, we bounced different scenarios off of each other. And we always said that, if it worked out, we wanted to work for each other. Jack has got a tremendous family. My wife and his wife are almost good best friends. So for me, man, getting Jackie in the fold, here's a guy who won a national championship, who's been a pro. He's tremendous with connecting people, and he's really, really good with skill development and on the defensive side of the basketball. So got 2 other guys. Only thing I can share with you is that they have a Patriot League background. And that's what I wanted to have coming into this position, because, recruiting the academic profile student athlete at American is different than what I've recruited at George Mason or even UNC Greensboro.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Coming from the A10 to the Patriot League, Patriot League is a one-bid league. Like you said, they're known more for their academics. That's not anything new for you coming from DeMatha, but how does that change your recruiting profile? But we do still have a plethora of excellent private schools. You mentioned Sidwell and Bullis and high academic type schools where you can try to vie to get some of those players to stay home. Have you already started the process of trying to tack into this plethora of talent in DMV?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were, just sitting around this weekend, man. I was firing out some phone calls of guys that I was recruiting at George Mason, and pretty much reoffering them here at American University. And people have this perception, whether it's reality or not. I'd say it's more of a misnomer of that. There are not enough high quality students that are also really good basketball players, right? When I got the job at Sidwell Friends, one of the things that I sold the administration on was that, this program can be one of the best in not just in the DMV, but also in the entire country. I've always felt that there are enough affluent families in the DMV Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., there are enough families that really value a great education and understand that, you're not going to be able to go to the gym during the week for 4 or 5 hours a day, right? And you're gonna spend 2 hours and some change on homework, but you can still be a really good basketball player. Eric Singletary has pretty much taken that blueprint and he's run with it, right? Sitwell Friends is not they were number one in the area in the Washington Post, but they're also a top 25 team in the country. That same model can be applied to and will be applied at American University. The only difference now is, my net goes, wider than just the DMV. The New England area has tremendous prep schools. There are, with us being right in Washington, D.C. and having over 1,400 different, 140 different countries represented on our campus, we're going to be able to recruit internationally as well. So there are going to be so many more ways for us to get high quality players that are also really good students.
All right, Coach, we're going to go to a break right now. When we come back on the other side, we're going to allow you to talk about how you're going to build your program and what's going to separate playing for Coach Simpkins at American University to the potential recruits out there. So stay on break, stay with us on the other side. We'll continue our conversation with head coach Duane Simpkins of American University. So stay with us.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back, and now we're going to continue our conversation with the new head coach of American University, Duane Simpkins, and we're also joined by Ray Rogers, the host of the Urban Sports Scene podcast. And Duane, you were talking about the blueprint that you have, and the job it's not new. You're doing on a grander scale. You were at a high caliber academic institutions when you were the head coach at Sidwell and St. Albans, and were able to lure some of the talent from the DMV. But like you said, at an international university like American University, you can go international and things of that nature. So talk about what will be some of your selling points to the DMV, the American and international players you're going to be trying to recruit.
Well, first and foremost, the academic profile of American University, man. I mean, you stack it up with, Ivy League schools, other international schools that are really good. Just the fact that it's in Washington, D.C., right? We have one of our top schools is the Kogod Business School, which is one of the best in the entire world from all colleges and universities. And the majority of our players are actually business majors, and a number of them are majoring in sports business and sports administration, kinesiology, things like that. And with our proximity to all of the professional teams, you have a built-in network of potential internships and networking opportunities that were right there at your fingertips. So that's a huge selling point to families when they do come here. Secondly, if you've never really been to the Washington, D.C. area, man, and you're flying in on that plane and you're passing the mall and you see the White House and everything, man, like that's very impressive coming through the door, right? And then you hop in the car and you drive around, get GW Parkway, you come over Key Bridge and you see the water and the skyline and everything. You pull up Foxhall, go down Massachusetts Avenue. I mean, it's very impressive. I think it's something that we take advantage of. Because we're from here. But when you talk to people who come from out of town, they're like, man, this is what's up. And you guys got all kinds of people. You guys got black, white, and this is the other thing too, man. Like Prince George's County, and I guess I've heard this has changed, but Prince George's County historically has been the most affluent African American county in the country. Mm-hmm. And to have that now, when other kids come here and they see other people that look like them, that own businesses, that have big time government contracts and everything, like that's impressive. That's really impressive. And from the basketball perspective, I don't like to Now that I'm a head coach, I do it now. I have to, but I like to tell them, like, hey, man, there are many coaches that played professional basketball, that was a McDonald's All-American, and went to multiple NCAA tournaments. Like, where you want to get to, I've been. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. Let me help you get there. And the other thing too, and this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think I have an idea of how it's going to play out. I'm going to try to execute it. But with the transfer portal being what it is right now in college basketball, there are going to be a number of high school players that, one, are not going to be recruited. They could be at a quote unquote low major school. There are going to be a number of high major players, potential high major players, that coaches are going to get older, and they want to get older players. So those players are going to kind of get pushed down to the mid-major levels, and the mid-major players get down to the low major levels. And what I think you're going to find is a lot of players. One of the reasons why you see a lot of transfers is you have talented players that go to certain schools. They get there, and the playing time is not there. You know, as a freshman, if I'm a coach, I'm going to take that 22, 23-year-old kid over an 18-year-old if I'm trying to keep my job. Now, if you're exceptional, that's one thing, but grown men going to beat little kids every day of the week. You know, there's a reason why you see FAU making the run that they made, St. Peter's last year. I mean, those guys were older, they were experienced, and they ran up into some teams that were talented, but there was young talent. There's nothing like it in college basketball, man. If you have not spent 3 or 4 years, I know what it felt like as a freshman playing against Kevin McClinton, who was the starting point guard in front of me as a freshman. I'm a McDonald's All-American coming in. I'm like, yeah, man, I was the second best point guard behind Jason Kidd. I can do this, I can do that. And I was talented. But playing against a grown man and Kevin McClinton, who was 6'4", 205, and I was 6 foot 160, man, it's like that's night and day. It's night and day. But I want to take advantage of that. I want to be able to, provide the opportunities for some of those guys who may, quote unquote, get overlooked by, it could be a George Mason, it could be a Georgetown, and they're good players. And I'm gonna tell those guys, like, can you be are you a high major player? Yeah. In 2 years' time, yeah, come here. We'll put the ball in your hands. You're gonna play. I'm gonna let you play through your mistakes. A quick story. I remember listening to Bob McKillop talk about Steph Curry as a freshman, and he said, I knew Steph Curry could be really talented. He said, I'd be lying if I thought he was going to be this MVP player and everything else, but I knew he was really, really talented. And I wanted to put the ball in his hands and let him play through his mistakes. And lo and behold, I went and I looked at some of the stats. Like, he had multiple games where he had 9 turnovers, 8 or 9 turnovers. But Bob McKillop said, hey, I wanted to have him play through those mistakes, because I knew the more he did it, the better he was going to become. If Steph Curry, everybody talks about Virginia Tech not recruiting him and everything. If he had went to Virginia Tech, we wouldn't know who Steph Curry is right now. I promise you that. He was able to go to a place where he can get on the floor early, make mistakes, and grow.
Ray?
I definitely want to jump in. It's like coaches have this intuition. I was just getting ready to mention stuff, because not to age you, but you mentioned home team sports. The game is played a lot different now than it was played at the time when you were at Maryland and all. And we call it the Steph Curry era. A lot of 3-pointers, up-tempo. Big men are not featured as much as they used to. So how can you incorporate that old school type of basketball into your current coaching style with the way the game is played now?
I think there's a time and place for it. I'm big on posting it up. If you got a guy that can post, you post him, right? We had Josh Aduro at George Mason. He just finished his 4th year. He was a senior. He's got an extra year this year coming up. He's going to Providence. But for the past 2 years, Josh was first team All A-10 player, and Josh put his back to the basket. Now, where you have to make some adjustments, Ray, is you actually allow your post players now to actually step out and face up from the block. It could be in the short corner, it could be at the mid post, could be at the elbow, could be at the nail. So it's not always you just playing with your back to the basket and banging. There is a place for that, but now if you do have shooters, and I want to have what I call 4-shooter lineups. I want 4 guys on the court that are threats from the 3-point line. And it's not necessarily so we shoot a bunch of threes. We're going to shoot a good number of them, but we want spacing, right? So to be able to touch the paint with the drive or dump the ball into the post and have plenty of spacing. It's funny, sometimes you watch some of the old school basketball and you see the lack of space. You're like, man, like it's 5 defenders in the paint. Like it's crazy to see, but it's a testament, man, to the skill level of the players now, in particular at the NBA level, man. You're like 7-footers shooting threes and making them at a 35% clip. You know, I know some people say, man, they shoot too many threes. I'm like, 3 is more than 2. If you're shooting 36% from 3, that's better than 45 or 50% from if you're shooting 36, 37 from 3, it's better than shooting 45 from 2 any day of the week. So we'll mix it up.
And talk about how you're going to use your network of all the people that you know in the coaching fraternity. Because in a situation like this, you got your buddy Mike Jones at Maryland, who is a Power 5 conference program. And I remember we used to do this when I was coaching at Carroll, and he was at DeMatha. There may have been a kid that might not have been quite the right fit for DeMatha, or in this case, in Maryland. But he could say, I've got a good buddy of mine, Duane Simpkins. You may not hit the floor in Maryland, but if you go to AU, you get a quality education and they get a chance to get the ball in your hands.
Yeah, and 100%. You know, me and Mike actually was joking with him, and you know, it goes both ways, right? He's going to have a kid or two that, for whatever reason, you know, he's talented. You know, he just can't get on the court. You know, they brought in another guy who's really good a year behind him or whatever. But in our program, we're going to have some talented guys, and we bring them through the door. And like I said, I want to play guys early that they're talented enough. You know, I might have a guy that comes in and as a freshman, he's Patriot League Rookie of the Year. And the next year, he's averaging 15 a game and he's shooting 42% from 3. And I'm realistic, right? And in today's game, that player is going to be tempted to look at the University of Maryland or, you know, Ohio State or whatever. So on the flip side, I'm gonna tell Mike, hey man, talk to me about the kid that's not going to work. It's to work out for you. I'm going to let you know when there's a kid, when I know that there's talk of him, and if his family comes in and say, hey, coach, like the NIL at Maryland is whatever, and then I can't meet that. Well, now we're going to have a little bartering situation. Hey, Mike, you know, give me player A, I give you player B, and you know, so there's going to be some creativity that's going to come along with this. You got to.
Ray.
Well, I just want to talk to you real quick about the respect that you show for the game. I gotta throw my alma mater in there, Andrew. My bad, Maryland Eastern Shore, of course. After you played them last season, that press conference, you showed so much respect and was just honoring what they were doing over there. Talk about just how you show love to your opponents like that. But again, the word is respect. And I just think that's amazing to teach the young people about just how to respect the game like that.
I'm going to show you something real quick. This is so funny you said that. I got a text today. Where is it? Where is it? I got a text today from the head coach at Maryland Eastern Shore.
Crafton, that's my guy.
Coach Crafton texts me. That's the one left on blue, right? I was like, I know what he wants. He's texting me trying to see if we want to play a game. I'm like, I'm keeping him on ice for right now because I know this dude's a dog.
That's a no-win situation for you.
I'm going to find somebody else to play if I have to. If I have to play him, I will. But, man, he does a tremendous job. I saw them on film. It wasn't my scout, but I had watched them enough on film. And then when we played them, I mean, they played with a tenacity that, like, regardless of level, like, you got to respect. He's a hell of a coach. You know, I got a chance to see him. I think they beat Temple in a game, and I saw that game live. I was watching on television. That was the thing that stuck out, man. It's just like how hard his guys played. You know, some people want to try to judge coaches on how good they are or bad they are by the offense that they run and stuff like that. I look on the other side. I look on the defensive side. I look at how, if somebody does make a mistake, how hard they sprint back to try to recover from that mistake. And his team does that, man. I got a lot of respect for what Coach Crafton does.
All right, guys. Duane, I appreciate you making some time for us, buddy. I know you're going to do an outstanding job at American University, and like Ray is going to try to cover you guys at the urban sports scene. I've got some young proteges coming up. Going to try to have them come down and see what it's like, see the atmosphere you're going to build down at Bender Arena. Best of luck to you. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us.
Thank you, man. You guys are welcome anytime. Ray, looking forward to having you come down to Tinleytown, brother.
I'm gonna reach out, no doubt.